Hey friends, welcome back to Mustard Seed Homesteading. If you're new to my channel, my name is Megan and I am so glad that you are here. What I do on this channel is give weekly garden tours, and I'm also harvesting right now because it is the month of August, so there's just a lot thriving, but I also have a lot that's dying or getting diseased, and I want to show you the transformation of my garden from week to week. So let's get started. So in this pepper bed, I don't know what's going on. I've gotten peppers this year, but they're just taking forever to really bloom for me to harvest. This is a tiny little jalapeno, but you know what? I'm gonna harvest this one just to kind of encourage the plant to grow some more, hopefully. But you can see there's a ton of flowers like on everything, but I haven't been able to get a ton of fruit. So over here, I will say the one that's been doing really well, I've been consistently harvesting the red cayenne peppers. And I've also, let's see, I've harvested an Anaheim chili pepper. And I have harvested some bell peppers. There's a little mini bell pepper over here. This one's starting to fruit a lot, you can see. Let's see if I can move this out of the way. But you can see one here, there's one here, and look at all those. Now these are actually bite-sized bell peppers. They're very delicious. They get red, so I'm not ready to harvest these. These have been pretty consistent, and so has my red cayenne. And then I want to say I did see a red cayenne over here. Let me see if I can find it. Right here. See him? So cute. So I am getting some more peppers. I have a feeling right before the season's done that I'm probably gonna have a whole bunch of peppers to harvest. I just have that feeling. And then I do have this bell pepper here still from last week. I'm just waiting for that one to turn color. And then I'm gonna harvest that one. And then I do have some over here. And I have harvested, like I said, I have harvested bell peppers before in this bed, so it's not like I haven't harvested anything. I just would like to harvest a whole lot more than what I've been getting. So we'll see. You know what? I'm gonna grab this one too. I'll tell you what's really been doing good in this bed though is this basil. And honestly, I don't know if the basils contributed to the peppers not blossoming quick enough. I'm not sure. I put the basil in here strictly for pest control because it's supposed to be good for that. But I don't know, because the pepper plants are growing really tall. So I don't know, maybe it's just that my peppers just took forever, because this year my cucumbers did amazing and my peppers did a whole lot better last year. So I don't know. Every season changes, every season is different when it comes to growing vegetables. I do want to give you a quick update on all the green beans. While there isn't a ton to harvest, they are starting to shoot some green beans out. And I'm hoping by next week's garden tour, we are picking some green beans, because they are definitely going to be shooting out here very quickly. Because once they start, they go fast. So now on to my cucumbers, which have been doing so wonderful this year. I will insert some clips from earlier this week. I had to harvest some of the cucumbers during the week because I found more of those worm-like bugs going into the cucumbers. So I had to harvest as much as I could, and then I had to do an organic spray. It helped the last time. And then I continued to take off any diseased leaves. And what I've noticed since I've done that is a lot more runners have been popping up, which has allowed more fruit to start popping up. And I'm hoping that, see, like this one right here, I'm hoping to get more cucumbers because I still got a good month and a half left because my first frost isn't until November. So I've been getting a lot more of these runners, and that's what I'm hoping for. This one I know we can harvest today. But look, I can show you, okay, here. So I can show you that there's been a ton more little baby fruits, baby cucumbers that are popping up everywhere. And so I'm contributing this to, it's kind of hard with the lighting right here, but there's one right there. There's one, let's see, right here. But I'm contributing this to just cutting off as many diseased leaves and then allowing the runners, here's one, allowing the runners to keep going so that I could get more fruit. Because what I've noticed is that when a vine looks like it's kind of dying like this, you can see this one's kind of new ones will shoot off to the side, and then more fruit will come off of those vines. So that's what I've been doing this year, and I really like it. Oh, look at, there's 3 on 1. I really like that because I feel like I've been getting a lot more fruit, a lot more cucumbers. And see, here's one too right here, and all of this is from runners that I've just allowed to keep going. It's almost like the new lifeline to a cucumber plant for it to continue on. And I'm really happy about it. I'm gonna continue to do this every year. And see, for example, right here. Let me get my stool. So for example, what I was trying to say, I had to get on the stool here to show you because it's up pretty high. So here's this vine. It doesn't look like there's much on it. You know, if you follow it all the way down, it doesn't look like there's much on it. But then you come to like this armpit right here, and then look at this new one that's growing. And it's very healthy looking. And so that's really what I've been doing. And see, there's one that's trying to shoot out right here. It's probably hard to see. But then there's another one that's growing right here. And I've just been letting it do that, and I think that's why I've been getting a lot of fruit. So I would encourage you, if you grow cucumbers or if you've had a hard time growing cucumbers, just let the runners go. And maybe you do, maybe this is something that people already do, and I'm just, you know, because I'm still somewhat of a new gardener. It's my 3rd year of gardening. Here's another one right here. But I think that this is the best thing for my cucumber plants, is letting these runners go and then just kind of taking care of the plants as much as possible when I find disease or I find any insect pressure. And that's just what I'm going to keep doing. So here's what I harvested during the week. I had quite a bit of cucumbers, and some had this slimy looking substance that was coming out of a little hole. Here's kind of a close-up. I know it's not as focused, but you can see where they made a hole, and he was in there, and they're pretty small. So thank goodness I harvested this when I did. And I did cut into all the cucumbers that I saw had holes because I figured if I could get these worms out before they continue to affect the cucumber, then I'd rather cut a part of them than lose an entire cucumber. And I am curious, how has your cucumbers been this growing season?
Now, my assumption is that the reason a few of those cucumbers had those worms in there was, I think, from moths that lay eggs on the leaves that you'll see here in just a minute. And then they turn into worms that go into the cucumbers. And thankfully, I do have an organic spray that has been helping. But on this day, because of the worms, I had to harvest as many as I could so no other cucumbers would get affected. And here are the eggs that I think turn into those worms. But thankfully, as you can see, I still had a wonderful harvest of cucumbers.
So before I start to harvest the 2 cucumbers that I want to harvest over here, because I did most of it during the week, I want to be able to show you the runners up here before I do that. So I'm going to get on this stool. I'm going to stand up on here and hold this post so that you can see it all up here. So hopefully you can see there's a runner here, 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 right there, right there. Hopefully you can see all of them, but they just keep shooting out everywhere. And honestly, like I said, I really do think that it is what has helped me have a steady harvest of cucumbers for my family and I to eat without me having to go to the grocery store and purchase any cucumbers, which is always nice. All right, time to harvest this one. This was here last week. I feel like it could have gotten a little bit bigger, but I don't want to leave it on there because I want to encourage the plant to grow some more. But this has been such a great cucumber this summer. It's the, I'm trying to think of the name, Poniente F1. So it's not an heirloom, but it is an F1 cucumber. I like to do both. For me, I like to do both. So let's harvest this one. Whoa, look how long it is. Look at that. It's huge. I love these. These taste wonderful, and they're not too seedy either. They're a really great cucumber. And then do you see these 2 right here? There's 2 growing right here. It's hard to see with this lighting, but there's more growing. Now on to this last one, because I don't think this is going to get any bigger. Now for the other side of green beans that I have, there's actually some that are ready to be harvested, so I'm super excited to harvest these with you. Now, before I start harvesting, I wanted to show you something that I found was really interesting. This right here is an onion that is growing out of here. So I have a video that I did where I harvested leeks and some onions and I planted these green beans. And if you watch that video, I had poured soil and compost throughout the entire bed. And you would think that onions would not still be in there, but they were. And that's what's so fun about gardening is the vegetables or seeds that fall and they just start growing and you don't expect it. And it's like free food that you didn't even put any work into. And there's another one over here. This one doesn't look like it might be doing very well, but the fact that it's growing after I just redid this bed, like probably about a month and a half ago now, is kind of funny to me. It's kind of like this too. I don't know if I'll get my Connecticut Wonder green beans because these were planted in this pepper bed last summer. And look at how much it's grown and it's gone all through the pepper bed. So anyways, I just wanted to show that to you. Let's harvest some green beans. Now here are some gold rush green beans. I planted all sorts of different kinds. These are yellow. Now when you cook them they turn green, but aren't those fun? Here's the Gold Rush green bean. It's more of a yellow than your typical green bean, but they're a lot of fun to grow. Now this next green bean is also fun. It's called Royal Burgundy and it is a beautiful deep purple. So there is definitely some that are ready to harvest, some that are not. Sorry for the train in the background, guys. We don't live super close to a train, but it's close enough where it's pretty loud. Let's see. Oh, there's a gold one. I missed some Gold Rush ones. Let's grab these. I just wanted to show you how beautiful these purple flowers are on the Royal Burgundy. Look at how richly purple that is. It's so pretty. Now these ones on this side are a mix of Contender and Jade, so I think we do have some that we can harvest as well. I have a feeling this go around we're going to have a lot more green beans than we did last week. Yeah. Oh, look at these bugs. I don't know what those are. They don't want to move. Isn't that funny? I have no idea what those are. And look, there's a ton of baby ones, so we're going to be harvesting these, I think, every week now. Very happy, very excited. Now for this bed of peppers that we are waiting for a lot of peppers to bloom, just like the first bed. They are growing incredibly tall. These are getting really tall, and I still see a lot of flower blooms. And while there's not a ton to harvest, that one Serrano from last week is ready to harvest, but I don't see a ton of peppers, and that's fine. I mean, if it means waiting another week or two to harvest all at one time, I'm fine with that. It just seems like it's taking forever this year. So I just feel like last year I was harvesting a whole lot more peppers faster than this year. But then again, as I've said previously, I did plant some of my plants and my starts later than I wanted to this year. So here's that other Serrano from last week. We're gonna harvest this one. It's so pretty, but there's a lot of flowers. I mean, they're everywhere. Look at them. They're everywhere. And I have a feeling they're gonna just all shoot out at one time. I might even just have to do a video on just harvesting peppers. I don't know. We'll see. But I will say that I'm definitely ready to harvest this banana pepper. Look at how beautiful this pepper is. Look at that. I love these peppers. I'm gonna be growing a whole lot more next year. These are some of my favorite peppers now. They're so crispy and you know, they're not hot. I don't mind hot peppers, but I'm not into super hot peppers. But I'm excited about this one, and there's a whole lot more flowers, so I hope that I get a whole bunch of these peppers before the season's over. And then look at, you can see this thing is vining. It would be really great to see some Connecticut Wonder green beans so that they're like a white green bean. They're so pretty. I didn't really have the space to grow them this year, but it looks like it made its own space. And then look at, there's another serrano right here. So I have a feeling that I'm going to be harvesting a whole lot of peppers in the weeks to come. We'll see. Let's hope so. Now on to all of my tomatoes. These have been doing so well for me this year. These are my Martina Romas, and I did get these seeds from Seed Savers. So if I run out, I should try actually saving some seeds myself. But I probably will go back to Seed Savers and purchase some more because they've been doing wonderful. And the San Marzano over there, which we'll get to also, has been doing really good too. And then this has gotten even bushier. As you can see, I have not harvested yet. I need to. I might do it tomorrow, but that's the Tulsi Holy Basil. I've been making tea for my family every single week this summer, and hopefully I can preserve enough for part of the winter and fall because they do love that tea, and I prefer to make that tea than have to buy it at the store with the added preservatives.
Being able to come out to my backyard to harvest all of these wonderful vegetables every week has really made me want to expand my garden and grow even more to help lessen my dependency on the grocery store and making more things from scratch at home.
So this next bed that we have harvested Cherokee purple tomatoes, which we do have one to harvest today. There's a couple of yellow pear tomatoes and red ones that we'll harvest. But this is what I mean when I said that some stuff is just dying away and they're getting diseased. But then there's some that it just continues to keep growing. Now these are indeterminate tomato plants, so they will keep growing. And I'm just gonna let it do whatever it wants to do until I need to pull them out for the fall planting. And that's really all I'm gonna do. And I'm just gonna continue to harvest as much as I can until, like I said, I have to plant my fall crops.
And even though it was so very hot outside that day, I'm really trying to take in all the beauty that the garden is showing and all the food that it continues to share with me, even though some of it is dying.
So there's our Cherokee purple tomato that is ready to harvest. It looks like it nestled itself between the stick and the plant stems. But let's grab this one. See if I could do it with one hand. Oh, I could. Oh, look how beautiful that is. Let's see if I can get it in the light. Oh, that's so pretty. I had no success with these last year, and I've had nothing but success this year. So I am so happy. And they're beautiful inside too when you cut them. So pretty. Now we're going on to my cherry tomatoes. The lighting over here is getting a little bit difficult with the sun, but we're gonna harvest as many as possible off of these as well.
While these cherry tomatoes are still definitely producing, they are getting very tall, and I'm surprised they're all still standing. If we do have another storm though, I can see all of these falling over.
I want to share something real quick because on my last garden tour, I showed you a hornworm that did some damage on my tomato plants, and I showed you the tomatoes that they ate because they don't just eat the leaves, but they also can eat your tomatoes. It doesn't happen all the time, but I forgot to get this one, even though it still turned red. You can see where it got bit. Hopefully you can see that. I know it's very tiny, but that's where the hornworm bit it. So, you know, like I said in the previous video, the best way for you to keep an eye on your garden is just to check it on a daily basis. Even if you just have to put your timer on for 5, 10, 15 minutes, if that's all you have to give to your garden, it's the best thing that you can do. So I hope that helps. I also want to quickly add and encourage for those that are new to gardening or are getting started. All of these beds and everything that you see has been a progression of adding on the last 3 years. So even if you started with something small, I would encourage you to not get overwhelmed and to start with something like a GREENSTALK where you can stack a whole bunch of plants in a small footprint, or just one raised bed to kind of get your feet wet. I know for me, and I'm sure there's a lot out there that are like me, where you just want to do everything all at once, because that was me when I first started gardening. But I ran into a lot of having to troubleshoot, and I did get quickly overwhelmed. And then as soon as I started to learn and get to understand plants and the way they grow and the way they react to certain things, that's when I started to expand my garden, and now it is the way that it is. And I would love to continue to expand my garden. I know I have one more bed that we have to put in, and I probably could continue to build back into the woods, but I also know that as long as I'm growing enough food for my family to eat, and I don't have to run to the grocery store for fresh produce, that's enough for me. So you'll know your limit, but like I said, I encourage you to start small if you're new to gardening and then expand from there. And I dropped one. Where did it go? There he is. This one is my favorite one. I've shown this on previous videos. It's the Artisan Bumblebee. It's such a beautiful color of red and yellows. It is so worth growing in your garden.
It's so crazy to think that all of this beauty and lushness in the garden will be gone within the next 2 months for the fall season crops. And while the fall season crops has a beauty of its own, it's nothing like the craziness of the summer garden. It just feels like summer just started a few weeks ago.
Now, for those that have been following me, these two beds, this one has my watermelon beefsteak and this one has my Kellogg's. I'm really sad to say that I'm still not seeing any fruit, but you can see that it's growing up top and it's healthy. So I'm still rooting for some fruit to come, but I will say I did find 2 fruits over here by the watermelon beefsteak. Let me see. Oh, here they are. So far, this is what we got right here. And then there's some more flowers here. So hopefully Hopefully I can get even more than just these two. But I don't know what happened to these. I mean, I have shared previously that I had put a strong neem oil on them, so that probably was it, but I don't know. I really don't know. Every season so far, I've had failures and successes. I don't think any gardener is gonna have successes with everything 100% all the time. And that's fine, you know, I mean, because every season is different. And that's what I love about gardening, is that every season's different. So you're constantly learning new things all the time, which is the best way to learn to become a gardener, is being a student of your own garden space. And real quick, before I go on to the San Marzanos, here's my comfrey. If you can see, the last time it was pretty poofy. I am starting a second attempt at making a homemade fertilizer. I found a really good video, and I think I mentioned this last week, of making a fertilizer from this. So it's down below over on my patio in the bucket. So I cut off a whole bunch of leaves, and I have it sitting in a whole 5-gallon of water. And I'm gonna let it ferment for 2 weeks and then dump it in a huge tote of water to dilute it to make a fertilizer. And you guys, I really hope that it works, because I love having healthy organic fertilizers, but at the end of the day, it does cost money, and I would prefer to save costs, especially on fertilizer, if I can make it myself.
And these plum tomatoes that I'm picking are my San Marzanos. This is the first time I've ever grown these, and they are one of my new favorites because I've been able to harvest a lot of them. So I will more than likely be growing them again next year.
Now, for those that have been watching my garden tours, you know that I had a really slow start with my Kentucky Wonders on this trellis right here, from my San Marzanos to my Martina Roma tomatoes. And I am so happy to say, you guys, that there's a lot of green beans even down here. Look how tiny those are. They're growing everywhere. You can see those too. So I think there might be some to harvest. Now I have to get on a ladder because you can see that they've just sprawled out onto my tomato plants, which I said before, I'm just gonna let it do whatever it wants and hopefully get a lot of green beans. So I'm gonna try to harvest as much as I can on my stool and see how much we get.
Green beans are one of my favorite vegetables to grow because everyone in my family loves them, and they're really not difficult to grow, and they're usually very prolific for me.
Well, those are hard to pick. They're all the way up top here. I might have to get a really gigantic ladder. It's getting really hard to harvest these so high up, but we're gonna do it. All I smell is tomato leaves right now. It smells so lovely. Okay, here's another view of the top of the Kentucky Wonders. Let's see if there's any up here. It's so funny, I have to get on my stool just to pick these. I do want to point something out that I just realized. So these sticks, I want to say these are 6 feet tall. And these are still not tall enough for indeterminate tomato plants. That's why I love the 8-foot bamboo sticks. But what I just realized is you can see how the green beans are vining in between the tomato plants. Look at how much more fruit's gonna come on those tomato plants. And it's helping it stay up. So I'm kind of liking this. I want to see how far it gets as far as growing up high. I know it's probably going to be a mess, but you know, we'll see. That's the whole thing with gardening, is experimenting and observing and learning how plants grow and work with one another. Now here are 2 tomato plants that I have right next to my comfrey. This one looks like it's gonna be nice and large, but I don't have a lot except for these to harvest. I wanna say, what are these? Let me see. These are the Brandywine red and yellow blend. Yeah, those don't look like Brandywine. You guys, I definitely mixed up my tomatoes this year. Not all of them, but some of them. That's okay. They're still tomatoes, right? That's all that matters. And before we move on to my bucket garden and those bags with the squashes that don't seem to do a whole lot for me this year, I want to come over here and harvest a few of my overwintered peppers and some moneymaker tomatoes that I shared last week, and some cherry tomatoes. So every video I'm gonna share and talk about my overwintered pepper plants, because this was the first time I ever tried overwintering pepper plants, and so I've been very pleased with them, which is why I'm gonna do it again. They were the first peppers that I harvested this spring, and they seem to be continuously giving peppers. I know these were here last week, they're not quite ready, but there's a whole lot more that are forming on here. I mean, just a ton. And so to me, it was worth keeping in my garage over the winter time because of how much fruit it gave me starting spring and summer, and it's continued to. So, and now these are my poblano peppers right here. We're gonna harvest some of those. These are the bell peppers. They're not quite ready yet. These turn red. I mean, I don't have to harvest them when they're red, but I like to harvest them when they're red because they're a lot sweeter. But my poblano peppers have been amazing this summer, and I just did a dish the other night where I just cut them up and I put them into the ground pepper with tomatoes and onion and garlic. It was absolutely delicious, and the kids liked it, so that's a big deal to me. So let's harvest some of these and then move on to the other ones.
And what I meant to say was ground beef, not ground peppers.
Look at how wonderful these have been. Just so much fruit. I'd encourage you guys, try overwintering a pepper plant. Oh, this one's being stubborn. Okay. There's one. Here's another one. Now, I would say the poblano peppers, they got some spice to it. They're not like a jalapeno where it's super hot. Okay, let's hope I don't drop it. Okay, well, look at that. One-hander for these two. I don't think they're super, super hot. Now, when they turn red, I think they are a little bit hotter. But for the most part, I feel like it's a perfect amount of heat. If my kids don't mind eating it, and now granted it was cooked into the ground beef, then I wouldn't say they're super hot. But they've been very plentiful this year, so I say they're definitely worth trying. Now on to my jalapenos. So this one is just a regular jalapeno where they're green. I see a lot of flower buds, but nothing ready to harvest. And then this is my new lemix. So there's actually quite a bit of peppers, but they're not yellow. They turn yellow like you saw the last video. There's a lot on here. So we'll wait, hopefully next week they'll be yellow for us to harvest. Now on to the cherry tomatoes. So these ones are just ready to, oh, those leaf-footed bugs, they've been all over my tomatoes. But it doesn't even look like they do anything to them. I don't understand what they're doing. Look at them. Let me see if I can get a close-up here. They're right there. Oh, I can't stand them. Okay, so let's start picking some cherry tomatoes. So share with me in the comments below, if you grow cherry tomatoes, what are your favorite things to do with them? Do you just eat them like this as a snack? Do you make a salad? What kind of salad do you make? Do you put it in dinners, lunches? I'd love to know what you do with your cherry tomatoes.
Now for harvesting the moneymaker tomatoes. These were seeds that I received from Garden in Minutes when I purchased the water irrigation grids. And just from this bag alone, I've harvested quite a bit of tomatoes and they don't show signs of stopping. So I will definitely be planting these next year.
Okay, this one's a little bit difficult to get over because it's all into the green beans, but look at this one. This one is really pretty. It's gonna be hard. Look how pretty that is. Yep, these are definitely going to be tomatoes that I grow next year too. So happy with these. Look at the harvest so far. So happy. This makes gardening worth it all. And since we're right here by these green beans, let's harvest because I know that there's some that are ready for harvesting. Now, something I do want to point out as I'm harvesting these green beans, now's the time where if you want to have a continued harvest of green beans, especially bush green beans, because they don't last a super long time and you can continue to plant seed, is that as soon as one starts to blossom, plant a second one. So for instance, I was trying to get another angle, but it was difficult. You can see right here, this bush green bean now is producing a lot of green beans. Well, last week you saw, and I explained how I planted another green bean and it was probably about this tall. But now look at how tall it's gotten. It's all the way up here now. And once this starts to show green beans and I start harvesting green beans off of that, I'm going to plant another seed and just continue to plant seeds until the season is over. So real quick before we go on to the back and my bucket garden, I just want to give you a quick update on the watermelons. They do continue to grow, so that's good. So we'll see what happens before the season ends. And then this is still here, so I haven't harvested this yet. I'm going to let that grow a little bit more. And then I think this was here last week, if I remember. So it hasn't gone away, hasn't gone bad on me, so we'll just see what happens. I mean, hopefully I'll get something, but we'll see. Now back here, I absolutely love my bucket garden. I think I share this and talk about it every video because it really was so inexpensive to do. And I will continue to leave a link to my budget bucket garden video because I really think it's worth trying and doing. But there hasn't been anything yet to really harvest, but there's a lot of green tomatoes. So I'm thinking in the next week or two, we'll be harvesting. I might even just do a bucket garden harvest just to show how much you can get from just a few buckets that didn't cost a whole lot. Now I do want to point out that I planted a cantaloupe in here. I think this is the Rocky Ford cantaloupe. I don't see any fruits. Now I did start this one late because a tomato plant did not do well here, and there's also one right here. So I don't know if I'll get cantaloupe, but hopefully we will. Just my oldest daughter and myself like cantaloupe, but the rest of the family doesn't. Now here's a squash. So far so good, you guys. I think I have one squash to show you over there, and it's so small, but we'll see. I've had such struggles with squash this year. Look at all these fruit. So much fruit on here. So much. And these bags here are also tomatoes. And they also have quite a bit of fruit on them. This one's still not ready yet, but look at how pretty it is. Oh, that's nice. I almost ran into a cobweb. Look at how pretty these are. Looks like something was munching. Looks like a hornworm. I actually saw this earlier this week and I couldn't find him, so maybe he disappeared already. I don't know. Oh, looks like we have something to harvest. We'll grab these. I've had to get really good at harvesting by one hand because I have to hold the camera. It's not always easy, but I've been getting better at it. Now with my bucket gardens, minus obviously that trellis right here in the middle, but I made little pathways to be able to get in and out through the buckets and to the other parts of the garden, just to make my life easy. I do want to point out this tomato plant. I actually tried overwintering 2 different tomato plants. The other one that was in that bucket, I ended up throwing away. It did produce a couple tomatoes, but this, I want to say this is the Martha F1. This plant right here that I overwintered was my very first tomato for the season, and did it taste so good. And while it hasn't produced like crazy, you guys look at it, it's still producing. It doesn't look pretty. It looks quite funky and bad, and I don't know if I'll keep it and overwinter it again. But I tried it and it worked, so I thought that was really cool. I might overwinter a tomato plant again. I may not. I don't know. We'll see. So before I go back here and I show you my one teeny little squash that's actually growing, here's some squash plants in part of my bucket garden that I planted. And I do see there's fruit right there. I don't know if you can see it. It's hard to, it's right here. And I want to say there's a really small one right here. So I don't know. I'm hoping that I can get something this year. I know every video, every garden tour, I'm always like, I don't have a squash. And I hope I get one, but we'll see. I don't know. You know, we'll see. I'm still hoping. I'm not giving up. So here's the squash plants. I did start some new ones a couple weeks ago, so I'm hoping that those will grow something. But here's my one baby squash. You guys, please root for me that I get this to grow fully. Look at how pretty that looks. This is the smooth criminal squash. So I don't know, we will see. I hope that it grows full out. If I just get one squash this year, I will be very happy. And then these are quite interesting because these are the wantham, if I'm saying that right, butternut squash. And this looks so dead, but then it keeps growing and it looks healthy, but I don't see any fruit, guys. So I don't know. Squash is quite interesting to me. I guess squash doesn't like me. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. Now to complete the garden tour, I want to show you all that's been growing down here on my driveway. There are a tremendous amount of tomatoes on those green stalks, and we're gonna go harvest those right now. So here are my lemon and lime trees. I haven't gotten any fruit. I have been fertilizing and watering them, but I also haven't had enough time to really research to take care of them. Oh, look at that little guy. A little lizard. I just haven't had enough time to thoroughly research, so I might be doing something wrong. I know that it said to fertilize every 6 weeks. I water it, so I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to do some more research on them. And then here's my asparagus plants. Now, this one is on its 2nd year. That one's on its 1st year. You want 3 years for them to establish their roots for you to be harvesting. And then, oh, look at these little guys. I think these are the seeds that they're supposed to let off. Yeah, I think so. Right here. Now, I'm going to encourage you when it comes to perennials, because asparaguses are perennials. I think perennials, and I do plan to add more perennials to my garden. I think perennials are the best thing that you can add in your garden space for so many reasons. One, a lot of times they're, I don't want to say completely hands-off, but they're not as hands-on as, say, like an annual vegetable where you have to look at pest pressure and make sure that there's no issues with your plants. So let me give you kind of an up close. So here's one right here. Now I'm not going to harvest this because this is on its first year. I want it to establish roots. And so by the third year, I can start harvesting these. And they look like little trees, don't they? They're so soft and fluffy and pretty. So here are some more cucumber plants. I haven't gotten any fruit from these because I had to pull out the old plants that were in here because they just got really diseased, I think by whiteflies, but I do see some fruit, so hopefully I get something, but we'll have to see. Now here's my ginger right here and my turmeric. Now I'm not going to go into great detail because I do want to do a separate video. I had made a video in the beginning, probably a couple months ago, on how to plant ginger and how to plant turmeric, and I did some research. And what I found since I started these is the way I planted these were perfect, okay? But these, on the other hand, were not growing. So because I do use turmeric and ginger in my shakes every day, I want to try to grow these so that I don't have to pay for them. And so I ended up experimenting with these because they weren't growing and I was getting quite frustrated. And so I plan to share in an update when I harvest these what I did in order for these to grow and to root into these beautiful plants like this. So definitely stay tuned for that because I think growing your own ginger and turmeric, if you can, is super important. Now these are some green beans. Let's harvest some of these. And the same went with these. Look at so many disease. Oh, look at that little lizard. Isn't he cute? Oh, he jumped. Okay, so let's harvest some green beans. I've had such bad whitefly issue this year, you guys. I don't know why, but whatever. As long as I can harvest, gosh, they're like flying in my face. You see all of them? Oh, it's so gross. I know gardening has bugs and stuff, but I still don't like them. I know some are good, some are not good, but we just have to live with it, right? Let's see. Oh, there's a lot of green beans on here. And I did the same with this one too. I planted green beans, so like here's one right here. This is a baby one. I planted some extra seed in there so that I can have a continuous harvest. Let's see, I don't think the other one's popped up yet. No. So this one right here and this one are sweet potatoes. And then this one, I'm growing a lot of kale in the summertime. And then we have, I want to say there's some sunflowers here. Or no, those are sunflowers. Now, oh, these are sun calendulas. These are calendulas, that's right. I wanted to grow some calendulas and those are on the top. And then the rest are just kale, which I do plan to harvest because I freeze dry the leaves and I make a powder, which I probably should do a video on that because superfood green powders are so expensive and kale is packed with so much good nutrition that you can just make it yourself. And you don't have to have a freeze dryer. You could just dehydrate them. There's different ways that you can get to powder them. So, but that's what's growing in here. And then I do have a lot of echinacea flowers in here. I'm just waiting for the flowers to start blooming. And then these are snapdragons. Oh, look how pretty this is. Oh, look at how beautiful the colors are. I think I'm gonna probably plant this in one of the beds next year because I don't like how it's flopping out of the green stalk. Now these right here I don't have anything in them. I did have lettuces that just continued to flower. And these right here where you see these little like soft, puffy looking, I don't know, they almost look like a cotton or like one of those, what are they called? The weeds that have the white top. I can't think of the name. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about. But if you pull this off, that's where the seeds are for the lettuce. So I'm probably going to chop these off so that I can get some seeds for them, because this is the red sales lettuce. It was one of my favorite, as well as the, I think this was the butter crunch lettuce. I can't remember the name, but it was delicious. And then the other thing that's funny is I have a ton of Tulsi Holy Basil with tomatoes in these next green stalks, which is what I really want to show you. And one of the seeds fell in here, and look at this beautiful Tulsi Holy Basil. This is what I make the tea out of, and it smells so beautiful and it's so delicious. But I just love when seed falls and starts planting and you put no energy or time into it. That's my favorite way of gardening. Now on to the ones that have all the tomatoes. So I did a lot of basil, tomato, and a lot of these green stalks, but look, you're gonna see there's a ton of tomatoes. I can't wait to show you those. So these are cream sausage tomatoes. I don't feel like they did the best. I mean, they're starting to really fruit right now. I'm hoping that I'll get quite a bit. I'm not really sure what happened there, but like this plant just looks completely dead. So I'm probably gonna grab these two and just let them completely ripen in the house. But here are the green stalks that have all of the tomatoes that we're gonna harvest. Look at how beautiful these are. They're like the most prettiest orange. They're so beautiful. Now these are the pears, but look at how pretty those are. Let me see if I can get it. Oh, so pretty. So let's harvest these. Look at all those tomatoes, you guys, they're so pretty. Now, here are some of my dwarf tomatoes, so they don't get very large. You can see they're just little dwarf size. And they're pretty diseased looking, and I've gotten some good tomatoes. Like these do look good, but you know, look at, the season's changing and it's starting to go icky, so these are not good. And then these right here are dwarf basils. I really enjoy those. I do have to harvest those this week, but they're just really, as the name says, dwarf basil, and they're tiny. I've used this on pizzas and just throwing them in different recipes, and those have been fun to grow and cook with. I also want to add that I did put some green beans in some of the spots in the green stalks, but they're not ready for harvesting, but when they are, I will show you. Now, something I found pretty funny, these 4 green stalks were all for onions, and I'm keeping them for onions, and that one is strawberries and peppermint on the top. That's mojito mint on the top, and then I want to say this top, you can't really see it, is the spearmint, my mint. I love my mints. But you guys, look at, I harvested all the onions out of here. I did a video on it, and look at what's growing. It's an onion. So I love when gardens do this. You have these like little surprises when you think you harvested everything, or you do harvest something and a seed drops. That's the best part of gardening, are those little surprises. Okay, I had to sit down to do my closing because I've been in the garden for 3.5 hours. Now, the video's not going to be 3.5 hours, but I've been in the garden for 3.5 hours trying to harvest and get some shots for you guys so that you can see all the different transformations of my garden on a weekly basis. But I want to encourage you that gardening has been such a blessing to me. The food that I've been able to harvest every single week is beyond anything I could have imagined that I could even grow, because I'm on my 3rd year of gardening. I've had no experience in the past. I gardened one time back in 2015 when we first bought our very first house. There was a little garden patch, and I want to say I started to grow some strawberries. They didn't fully grow, and I think I had a zucchini or two. I can't remember. It's been a while, but I didn't really stick with it. And then we moved, and now I just want to garden in every single spot. But look at all of this food, you guys. That's a lot of food. And towards the end, I'm going to divide everything up so you can see how much cucumbers, peppers, and tomatoes. Because how much do you think this would cost at the store? Now, granted, I will say that, you know, it costs money to put all of this up, but you can also garden on a budget. I do a whole bucket budget video. And again, I said it earlier in the video, but I'm gonna link it in the description below. I have about, let's see, 12 times 4, that's 48 buckets up there on the pallets. And I have a few more other buckets too up there. But 48 buckets, you can grow a lot of food in just one bucket alone, let alone 48. And that didn't cost me nothing but really soil and compost and then some seed. And even with seeds, you guys, you can seed save every year so that you may invest in seeds one year or maybe like each season, but then save seeds from those plants that you grow, and then you may never have to buy seed ever again. So I want to encourage you to grow, whether it's a small space like right here on my driveway. Now granted, this is kind of big, but like a GREENSTAK, this GREENSTAK behind me right here, this is a footprint, like 1 foot on the ground. Now vertically it's tall, but you can plant, let's see, that's 6 times 5. That's 30 spots that you can grow food in, and it's such a small spot. So you could grow from city all the way to country. But I just want to encourage you, because I think gardening is, one, it saves so much money. Yes, it's time, and you do have to put a little bit of money in, but think about the amount of time that you have to go to the grocery store and the wear and tear that you put on your car when you're driving, in the gas that you have to drive to the grocery store. Now, you may have a grocery store about 5-10 minutes away, but then also think about just the time that you have to spend to go to the grocery store versus you just going right into your backyard. Because see, once you establish your garden, all you have to do is replenish it with soil and plant a seed, and you're good to go. So I just want to encourage you, because I think gardening is super important for families to do, especially now with the rising prices and just everything going on. I just think it's really important, and I've been encouraged by it, and it has just given me and my family such a joy. And then the taste of the vegetables, that's a whole nother story. I mean, you're never going to get the flavor from a homegrown vegetable versus the taste of a vegetable from the grocery store. And it's not, the grocery store, when they import those vegetables, now granted, some grocery stores will import local vegetables, and that's great, but you have to think about when they import it from another state or possibly another country, the country or the state that they're importing it from, they have to pick those when they're not fully ripened so that they can hopefully ripen by the time they get to the store. So the flavor context of that fruit or vegetable is going to be completely different versus you going and picking it right out of your garden when it's ripe. So I say that to encourage you and just to think about why gardening would be so important for you and your family, and the joy that you would get from gardening, and then even just making it a family thing. I mean, I have my daughter out here that helps me. My little one likes to water stuff. So it's a really fun thing for the family as well. So I hope that encourages you. So I just want to tell you that I am so glad that you came by and that you took a garden tour and harvest with me in my garden. I hope that by me showing you my garden, sharing some tips, sharing some things that I do, and just the encouragement piece when it comes to gardening really inspires you and encourages you in some way, shape, or form. I appreciate you all stopping by all the time, and I really look forward to seeing you next time. Bye. Keep on keeping on. It's so worth it. Trust me, it is so worth it.
And here is the final harvest that we went out and gathered today. I couldn't be more thrilled with how much we've been able to harvest every week on our little backyard homestead.